Before we begin, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It's a small step that means the world to us. Stick with me through this story. It's one of heartbreak, hope, and a quiet kind of magic. Share your thoughts in the comments when we're done, and if it moves you, pass it along to someone who needs it. Now let's step into Claire's world, a place where everything fell apart until something ancient brought her back. There comes a moment in life when silence becomes heavier than sound, when your breath catches in your throat, not from awe, but from grief. For Claire, that moment didn't come once. It came again and again, like a storm that wouldn't let up. She was a devoted wife, a mother of two, an architect whose designs reached for the heavens. Towers she'd built kissed the sky, standing tall in cities she'd once called home. But life, it has a way of unraveling even the strongest threads. First, her mother passed, unexpectedly, a phone call in the middle of the night that left her staring at the ceiling, unable to cry. Then her husband walked away, his suitcase rolling over the hardwood floor she'd once picked out with him. And the firm she'd poured her soul into? It vanished in a merger, her name erased from the letterhead overnight. They say grief comes in waves, but for Claire, it was a tsunami. One that pulled her under, over and over, until she couldn't tell if she was drowning or just numb. She'd wake up each morning, or not sleep at all, staring at a life she didn't recognize. Bills piled up like little paper mountains on her kitchen counter. Her kids asked questions she couldn't answer. And the mirror? It showed a stranger, hollowed out by loss. She tried to keep going. She'd put on a brave face, drive her kids to school, nod at neighbors who didn't know the chaos behind her smile. But inside, it was like the world had turned grey. The colors she'd once loved, the blues of her drafting table, the greens of her garden, faded into a dull hum. Numbness became her refuge, a quiet place where she could hide from the ache. And then, one rainy afternoon, something shifted. She didn't plan it. Claire wasn't the type to chase miracles, but as she stood there, soaked to the bone, staring at that little statue, it was like something called her. Not a voice, not a sign, just a pull. A whisper in the silence she'd grown so used to. She didn't know why she picked it up. Maybe it was the way the lotus seemed to glow, even in the dim light. Maybe it was the silence in her chest, longing for a sound, any sound, to fill it. She bought it, tucked it under her arm, and walked home through the rain, not knowing that those pages held something she'd been searching for without even realizing it. That night, as the rain tapped against her window, she turned the first page, and what she read, it didn't just change her life. It reached into the deepest parts of her soul and pulled her back from the edge. She had no idea what was coming, but the ancient words she found that night, they were about to light a fire in the ashes of her world. The night Claire opened that book, something inside her shifted. It wasn't loud or dramatic, no lightning bolts or sudden epiphanies. It was quieter than that, like the weight in her chest lightened just enough for her to breathe again. She sat there on her couch, the world outside still dripping with rain, and let the words sink in. She wasn't looking for answers. Honestly, she wasn't sure she believed in them anymore, but that one line, it hit her like a soft tap on the shoulder. Let go of attachment, and you will find freedom. She read it again, then closed her eyes. And in that stillness, memories flooded in, It wasn't just the people she'd lost or the career that slipped through her fingers. It was the way she'd held on to the pain, like if she let it go, she'd lose them all over again. She'd been clinging to the grief, the anger, the need to control a life that wouldn't bend to her will. And in that moment, sitting there with an old book in her hands, she wondered, what if the pain was just a shadow? What if she'd been feeding it all along? So she tried something radical, not because she was brave, but because she was tired. She started letting go, not of the love she had for her mom, her kids, even the man who'd left her, but of the suffering tied to their absence. She sat on a park bench that day, closed her eyes and breathed, really breathed, for the first time in months. The wind brushed her face and she let it carry away a piece of the heaviness she'd been hauling around. It wasn't instant. Healing never is. But as she leaned into those ancient teachings, something clicked. The Buddha didn't promise her a perfect life. He didn't say the pain would vanish. What he offered was a way to stop fighting it, to see it, feel it, and let it pass. She started meditating, not for hours, just minutes at first, focusing on her breath, on the rise and fall of her chest. And in that space, she found a peace she didn't know she could have. It wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending it didn't hurt. It was about making room. Room for the sound of her kids' voices, for the warmth of a morning coffee, for the possibility that life could still hold something good. She'd lost so much, but maybe she didn't have to lose herself too. She kept going back to those teachings like a compass when she felt lost. She didn't need to be fixed. She wasn't broken. She just needed to remember who she was beneath the wreckage. And day by day, breath by breath, she did. She'd sit in the quiet of her mornings, letting the world wake up around her and feel alive. Not perfect, not whole in the way she'd once imagined, but present, free. That's where she found herself again, in the stillness, not running from the past, not chasing the future, just here. And in that here, she discovered something the pain had hidden. She was enough. Sometimes we lose everything, only to find what's been waiting inside us all along. Claire's story isn't over. And what she built from those ashes, that's where the real magic begins. In the gentle light of dawn, Claire sat, a woman who'd walked through fire and come out the other side. Her heart, once a knot of sorrow, felt light now, like it could float on the morning breeze. She'd lost everything, or so she'd thought. But what she'd found in those ancient words wasn't just survival. It was a rebirth. She'd learned something simple but seismic. Peace doesn't come from the world bending to your will. It comes from inside, from the way you meet the chaos. She didn't need to fix her life. She needed to stop seeing it as broken. And that shift, it changed everything. The teachings she'd stumbled into had taken root. They weren't just words on a page anymore. They were a quiet strength she carried. She'd let go of more than pain. She'd let go of the idea that she had to be flawless, that life had to be perfect to be good. She started trusting the flow of things, the way seasons turn, the way storms pass. And in that trust, she found a kind of freedom she hadn't known she'd lost. Every day, she'd sit with herself, just a few minutes, sometimes more, letting her breath anchor her to the now. It wasn't about escaping the hard stuff. It was about meeting it with grace. She'd lost her mum, her marriage, her career, but she didn't have to lose her peace. Happiness, she realized, wasn't out there in some shiny future. It was here, in the way she sipped her tea, in the sound of her kids arguing over the remote, in the quiet of her own heartbeat. She'd been stripped bare by loss, but that stripping away, it showed her something. Sometimes you have to long everything to see what's left. You. The real you, not the one defined by what you've built or who you've loved or what you've lost. And Claire? She liked that version of herself, the one who could sit with pain and still smile, who could fall and still rise. She stopped measuring her worth by what was gone. Every tear, every crack, they were lessons, not failures. They'd carved out space for this, a woman who could accept life as it came, who could breathe through the mess and find beauty in it. She wasn't running anymore, not from the past, not towards some perfect tomorrow. She was here, and that was enough. Now her days aren't ruled by what she's lost, they're shaped by what she's found, a quiet joy in the ordinary, a trust in what's ahead. She's not the architect of towers anymore, she's the architect of her own peace. And that's a foundation no storm can shake. Sometimes it's in the darkest corners that we find the brightest light. Claire learned what the Buddha knew. Freedom isn't about avoiding pain. It's about letting it move through you. It's about accepting the journey, every step, every stumble. She didn't erase her past. She reclaimed her power to write what comes next. So here's the question. What are you holding on to that's weighing you down? Claire's story isn't just hers. It's a mirror for all of us. If it touched you, drop a comment below. Let us know what you're ready to let go of. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're on this path together. Share this with someone who needs a little light today. And remember, the peace you're looking for, it's already inside you. Breathe, let go, find it,